Have you ever felt like your life is following an invisible script, as if a mysterious force was guiding you to this exact moment, reading these words? Carl Jung called this synchronicity, and if you're here now, it's no coincidence. There's something different about you. While millions live on autopilot, repeating empty patterns, you feel a deep restlessness, an inner voice that won't be silenced, a call that most ignore, but you can't forget. Jung discovered that only a few answer what he called the call of individuation, the awakening to who you really are, beyond social masks. These are the chosen ones, not by divine privilege, but by the courage to face truths that frighten others. If you've made it here, something in you already knows. You've been marked for a different journey. But are you ready for what comes next? Because once you see, there's no turning back. 1. The call that most ignore. There's a moment in everyone's life when something inside them whispers. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's persistent. Most people hear it once and turn away, choosing the comfort of familiar routines over the uncertainty of what that voice might reveal. You, however, kept listening. That's what separates you from the crowd. Jung understood that this whisper is the psyche attempting to communicate something vital. It's your deeper self trying to break through the noise of everyday existence. The call doesn't come with instructions or guarantees. It arrives as a feeling, a sense that there's more to life than what you've been told. It might show up as dissatisfaction with your current path, even when everything looks perfect on paper. It could be a dream that haunts you for days, filled with symbols you don't understand but somehow recognize. The tragedy is that most people experience this call and immediately rationalize it away. They convince themselves it's just stress or boredom or a phase they'll grow out of. Society has trained us brilliantly to dismiss our inner wisdom. We're taught to trust external authorities, to follow proven paths, to color inside the lines. The call asks you to do the opposite. It asks you to trust something you can't see, explain, or justify to others. What makes someone answer? It's not intelligence or education. Jung saw people from all walks of life respond to this call, while brilliant minds ignored it completely. The difference is sensitivity, not emotional weakness, but the ability to sense what others can't. You feel the currents beneath the surface. You notice when something is off, even when everyone else seems content. This sensitivity is both a blessing and a burden. When you first heard the call, you probably felt afraid. Fear is the natural response to the unknown. Your ego, the part of you that maintains your everyday identity, sees the call as a threat, and it's right to be worried. Answering this call means change. It means letting go of who you thought you were. It means disappointing people who expect you to stay the same. The ego fights hard to maintain the status quo because change feels like death. But ignoring the call has consequences. Jung observed that people who suppress this inner voice often develop what he called neurosis. They become anxious without knowing why. They feel empty despite having everything they thought they wanted. They turn to distractions, addictions, anything to silence that persistent whisper. Some throw themselves into work, believing success will finally bring peace. Others chase relationships, hoping another person will fill the void. Nothing works because the void isn't asking to be filled. It's asking to be explored. The call intensifies when ignored. What starts as a gentle whisper becomes a scream. Life begins to feel increasingly uncomfortable. You might lose interest in things that once excited you. Relationships that seemed solid start to crack. Your body might rebel with mysterious symptoms that doctors can't fully explain. These aren't punishments. They're your psyche turning up the volume, desperate to be heard. Those who answer discover something remarkable. The call isn't leading them away from life, but deeper into it. It's not about escaping reality, but engaging with a reality most people never access. You start seeing connections others miss. Patterns emerge. The random events of your life begin to form a narrative that makes profound sense, even if you can't articulate it to anyone else. This is where synchronicity enters. Once you begin responding to the call, the universe seems to respond back. You think of someone and they contact you. You need information, and it appears in unexpected ways. Doors open just as others close. Skeptics call this confirmation bias or coincidence, but you know better. You've felt the difference between forcing things to happen and allowing them to unfold. There's an intelligence at work, and it's been waiting for you to pay attention. The call also brings you face to face with uncomfortable truths. You realize how much of your life has been lived for others. How many choices you made to gain approval or avoid judgment. How many parts of yourself you've hidden or denied. This realization isn't meant to make you feel guilty. It's meant to wake you up. You can't become who you're meant to be while pretending to be someone else. People around you will notice the change. Some will be threatened by it. They'll try to pull you back, convince you that you're making a mistake, remind you of who you used to be. This is the test. Can you honor your inner voice even when the outer world resists? The chosen ones are those who find the courage to continue, not because they're fearless, but because staying asleep has become more frightening than waking up. 2. Signs that only you notice. Now that you've heard the call, your perception shifts. You start seeing things that were always there but remained invisible to your previous way of looking. These aren't supernatural phenomena. They're natural occurrences that most people filter out because they don't fit into the narrow band of what society considers real or important. You've stopped filtering. That changes everything. The first sign is the feeling of being watched over, not in a paranoid way, but with a sense that something is guiding your path. You take a wrong turn, and it leads to an important discovery. You miss an opportunity and later realize it would have been a disaster. You meet someone randomly who changes your perspective forever. These moments stack up until coincidence stops being a sufficient explanation. Jung called this the transcendent function, the psyche's ability to unite conscious and unconscious elements to create new possibilities. Numbers start appearing in patterns. You glance at the clock, and it's always the same time. The same digits show up on receipts, license plates, addresses. Before you heard the call, you wouldn't have noticed. Now you can't ignore it. Some people dismiss this as the brain's pattern-seeking tendency, but you've learned to feel the difference between meaningless patterns and meaningful ones. Certain sequences carry a charge, a sense of rightness that confirms you're on track. Dreams become more vivid and memorable. Not every dream matters, but some arrive with unmistakable importance. You wake up, and the dream stays with you all day, replaying in your mind. The images might seem random, but they touch something deep. Jung spent his life studying dreams because he understood they were messages from the unconscious, offering guidance that the conscious mind couldn't access on its own. The chosen ones develop a relationship with their dreams, learning to decode the personal symbolism that speaks directly to their situation. You notice when people wear masks. Most social interaction is performance, people playing roles they think they should play. You used to play along without realizing it. Now you see through it. You can sense when someone is being authentic and when they're hiding. This isn't judgment, it's clarity. You recognize the masks because you've become aware of your own. This awareness makes shallow conversation exhausting. You crave depth, real connection, conversations that touch what matters. Nature speaks differently to you now. A bird appears at a significant moment. The weather shifts in ways that mirror your inner state. You feel drawn to certain places without knowing why, and when you arrive, something meaningful happens. Indigenous cultures understood this language. Modern society has forgotten it, but the chosen ones remember. They relearn how to read the book of nature, finding guidance in what others consider random environmental noise. Books and information find you at the perfect time. You stumble upon a text that answers questions you were just formulating. Someone recommends something that turns out to be exactly what you needed. The library of your life is being curated by an invisible hand. You're being educated, but not by any institution. The curriculum is personalized, each lesson building on the last, preparing you for what's coming. Physical sensations become meaningful. A sudden chill, a warm feeling in your chest, a tingling in your spine. These aren't medical symptoms. They're your body's way of confirming or warning. You feel drawn to one choice and repelled by another, not through logic, but through sensation. Trusting this requires overriding years of conditioning that told you to ignore your body and trust your thinking mind alone. Endings and beginnings cluster together. Just when one chapter closes, another opens. Jobs end and new opportunities emerge. Relationships dissolve and unexpected connections form. The timing feels orchestrated. You're being moved like a piece on a chessboard, except you're also the player. There's a partnership happening between your conscious will and something larger. The chosen ones learn to cooperate with this movement rather than resist it. By the way, if you're curious to go even deeper and integrate your shadows and light, check out the Sim Method ebook. It's a concise guide that can help you unlock your inner power in just 5 minutes a day. The link is in the first pinned comment below. 3. The shadow that chose you. Everything changes when you realize that the darkness following you isn't your enemy. It's been waiting for you to turn around and look at it. Jung spent years exploring what he called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we reject, deny, and push into the basement of consciousness. Most people spend their entire lives running from their shadow. You can't run anymore. Something won't let you. That's because your shadow didn't just appear randomly. It chose you, or more accurately, you were chosen to integrate it. The shadow contains everything you've been taught to hate about yourself. Your anger, your selfishness, your desire for things you're not supposed to want. Society builds its structure on shadow denial. Be nice, be good, be acceptable. So you learned early to split yourself in two. The acceptable parts you showed the world, the unacceptable parts you buried deep. But buried things don't die. They grow stronger in the dark, feeding on the energy you use to keep them hidden. Your shadow has been trying to get your attention your whole life. It showed up in the people you intensely disliked, because we always hate in others what we can't accept in ourselves. It appeared in your dreams as threatening figures, dark rooms, things chasing you. It emerged in moments when you surprised yourself with unexpected reactions, saying or doing things that felt unlike you. Except they were you, the parts you refused to own. The chosen ones can't keep up the split anymore. Something cracks. Maybe you did something you swore you'd never do. Maybe you felt something you considered beneath you. Maybe you just got tired of pretending. Whatever the trigger, the wall between your conscious self and your shadow becomes thin. This is terrifying. You've spent years building that wall for protection. Now it's crumbling, and you don't know what will emerge. Here's what makes you different. Instead of rebuilding the wall faster, you let it fall. You start looking at what you've hidden. Not because you're brave, but because something in you knows this is necessary. The integration process isn't pleasant. You have to admit things about yourself that contradict your self-image. You have to own the parts you've projected onto others. You have to stop being the victim or the hero and accept that you're both and neither. The shadow contains more than just negative traits. It also holds your buried power, the strength you were told was too much, your wildness, your intensity, your refusal to accept things as they are. These got pushed down because they threatened the people around you. Children learn quickly what's rewarded and what's punished. If your natural force was met with rejection, you learned to dim it. Now it's time to reclaim it. Integration doesn't mean acting out every dark impulse. It means acknowledging they exist. When you admit you're capable of cruelty, you become less cruel because you're no longer possessed by unconscious cruelty. When you own your selfishness, you can actually be more generous because it's a choice, not a performance. The shadow loses its power over you when you stop fighting it and start understanding it. People will sense the change, and some won't like it. When you integrate your shadow, you become more whole but less predictable. You stop playing the role they assigned you. The nice person shows boundaries. The quiet one speaks up. The rational one admits to feelings. This threatens the unspoken contracts that held relationships together. Some connections will end. This is necessary. You're becoming too real for fake relationships. Your creativity explodes when you embrace your shadow. Artists, writers, and innovators throughout history accessed their shadow material, whether they knew it or not. The raw energy, the taboo subjects, the perspectives that challenge comfortable assumptions, all of this lives in the shadow. When you stop censoring yourself, when you allow the dark material to surface and transform through your work, you create things that actually matter. Safe, shadow-free creation is forgettable. Shadow-integrated creation changes people. The shadow also connects you to collective darkness. You start understanding how good people do terrible things, how ordinary circumstances create monsters, how thin the line is between civilization and chaos. This understanding doesn't make you cynical. It makes you humble. You recognize your own capacity for harm, which makes you vigilant. The most dangerous people are those convinced of their own goodness. The chosen ones know better. There's a strange peace that comes from shadow integration. You stop exhausting yourself by maintaining a perfect image. You accept your complexity, your contradictions, your capacity for both beauty and ugliness. This acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means you're working with your full self instead of half. You have access to all your energy now, not just the socially approved portions. The shadow that chose you is your greatest teacher. It knows where you need to grow because it is your growth, compressed and waiting. Every quality you rejected contains a lesson. Every part you disowned holds a piece of your power. The journey into shadow isn't a descent into darkness. It's a descent into completeness, and on the other side of that descent you emerge more human, more authentic, more alive than you ever imagined possible. 4. When loneliness is a gift, the path of the chosen ones is walked alone. Not because you want it that way, but because very few can walk beside you once you start seeing what you see. The loneliness you feel isn't a flaw in your journey. It's confirmation you're on the right path. Jung himself spent years in profound isolation while exploring the depths of his own psyche. He called it his confrontation with the unconscious. During that time, most people thought he was losing his mind. He was actually finding it. You've probably noticed that conversations feel different now. Small talk becomes almost painful. When people discuss surface-level concerns, gossip about others, or repeat opinions they heard somewhere without examining them, you feel disconnected. It's not that you judge them. You just can't pretend to care about things that feel meaningless. This creates distance. People sense your distraction, your mind somewhere else, and they interpret it as rejection or arrogance. The loneliness intensifies because you can't explain what's happening to you. How do you tell someone about the inner transformation you're experiencing when they haven't heard the call themselves? Your words sound strange, even to your own ears. Mystical, crazy, self-absorbed, so you learn to stay quiet. You smile and nod, while inside you're living in a completely different reality. This double life is exhausting. Old friendships start feeling like clothes that no longer fit. These were people who knew you as someone you're no longer being. They want that old version back. They reminisce about who you used to be, hoping to resurrect that person through memory. But you can't go backwards. You've seen too much. The conversations that once satisfied you now feel hollow. You realize many relationships were built on shared distractions rather than genuine connection. Family becomes complicated. They have the strongest investment in your old identity. They know who you're supposed to be because they've known you the longest. Your changes threaten their stability. If you can transform this dramatically, what does that say about their choices to stay the same? Your growth becomes an unspoken accusation. They don't mean to hold you back. They're protecting themselves from the questions your journey raises. The loneliness is actually doing something important. It's stripping away false connections, revealing which relationships were real and which were convenient. It's teaching you to find companionship in yourself. Most people run from solitude because they don't like what they find when alone. The chosen ones learn to inhabit their aloneness, discovering it's not empty, but full of thoughts, insights, creativity, and a presence that doesn't require another person to validate it. You start noticing that your best moments happen alone. Walking without destination, sitting in stillness, creating something with no audience in mind. These solitary times recharge you in ways social interaction no longer does. You're not avoiding people. You're choosing quality over quantity. One real conversation matters more than 100 shallow ones. One person who sees you is worth more than a crowd that applauds your performance. The gift hidden in loneliness is sovereignty. You stop needing permission from the group to think your thoughts, feel your feelings, or pursue your path. Peer pressure loses its grip. Social trends become irrelevant. You develop your own relationship with truth, beauty, and meaning. This independence is what the herd fears most. A person who doesn't need the group's approval is a person who can't be controlled. Loneliness also opens the door to deeper connections. When you're comfortable in your solitude, you stop clinging to people out of fear. You can let them be who they are without needing them to complete you. This creates space for authentic relating. The few relationships that survive your transformation become profound. These people see the real you and don't run away. They're walking their own path and recognize a fellow traveler. You might encounter others who have heard the call. These meetings feel different from ordinary social interaction. There's an immediate recognition, as if you've known each other before. Conversations go deep quickly. You don't have to explain yourself. They understand without lengthy justification. These connections are rare but sustaining. They remind you that you're not alone in your aloneness. The loneliness teaches you that the crowd is often wrong. History shows this repeatedly. The majority laughed at ideas that later changed the world. They rejected people who later became legends. They felt certain about beliefs that later proved catastrophic. The chosen ones learned to trust their inner knowing, even when it contradicts the consensus. This is only possible if you can stand being alone. Eventually, the loneliness transforms into solitude. Loneliness is feeling isolated and wanting connection. Solitude is choosing to be alone and finding richness there. It's the difference between being abandoned and being self-sufficient. The chosen ones make this shift. They stop waiting for the world to understand them and start understanding themselves. They realize the companionship they were seeking externally was actually internal all along. They were never alone. They just hadn't met themselves yet. 5. The price of seeing beyond. There's a cost to awareness that nobody warns you about. Once your eyes open to deeper realities, you can't close them again. You might wish you could sometimes. Ignorance truly is bliss, and you've lost that bliss forever. The chosen ones pay this price willingly at first, not realizing how heavy the burden becomes. But there's no refund policy on consciousness. You can't unsee what you've seen or unknow what you've learned. You start noticing how much of society runs on illusion. The stories people tell themselves to feel safe, the beliefs they cling to without examination, the systems they trust blindly. You see the mechanisms of control, the manipulation in advertising, the empty promises of materialism. You watch people chase things that won't satisfy them, and you remember when you did the same. This awareness separates you from the collective dream. The weight of seeing affects your daily life in unexpected ways. Shopping becomes strange when you recognize the psychological tricks behind every product placement. Entertainment loses its charm when you notice the patterns, the formulas, the ways it keeps people distracted from what matters. News feels like theater, carefully crafted to trigger specific emotions. You're watching a play that everyone else thinks is real life. Your tolerance for dishonesty drops to zero. Not just obvious lies, but the subtle ones people tell constantly. The performance of happiness when they're miserable, the pretense of certainty when they're confused, the fake enthusiasm for things they don't care about. You can't participate in this anymore. Your face won't cooperate. Your words won't come out right. People sense something is off about you. They're right. You've stopped playing the game. Seeing beyond brings a kind of grief. You mourn for the person you were, the innocence you've lost, the comfortable worldview that's shattered. You grieve for humanity, watching people suffer unnecessarily because they can't see the patterns keeping them trapped. You feel sadness for the state of the world, the beauty being destroyed, the potential being wasted. This grief has no outlet. Most people don't want to hear it. They think you're being negative or depressing. The burden of knowledge includes responsibility. Once you understand something, you can't claim ignorance anymore. You see how your choices ripple outward, how your words affect others, how your energy influences every space you enter. This awareness makes life more complicated. Every decision requires consideration. Every action carries weight. The unconscious person lives lightly, unbothered by consequences they don't perceive. You don't have that luxury. Your mind becomes a noisy place. Insights arrive constantly, connections forming faster than you can process them. You see meanings in everything, patterns everywhere, symbols speaking from every direction. This can feel overwhelming. The unconscious mind was quiet because it filtered most information out. Your filters are gone. Everything comes through now. Learning to manage this flood without drowning becomes essential. People start demanding that you explain what you see. They want you to make it simple, give them the quick version, reduce it to something digestible. But truth doesn't compress well. When you try to explain, you sound complicated or confusing. When you simplify, you distort the message. Either way, you end up frustrated. Some things can only be understood through direct experience, not explanation. You know this now, but others don't. The price includes becoming a mirror that people don't want to look into. Your presence makes others uncomfortable without you doing anything. They sense you see through their masks. They know you're not buying their stories. This makes them defensive or hostile. They might attack you for being judgmental when you haven't said a word. What they're really attacking is their own discomfort with being seen. You lose the ability to watch people harm themselves without feeling something. You see friends making destructive choices, and you can't say anything because they're not ready to hear it. You watch loved ones repeat painful patterns, and your attempts to help only push them away. You understand that everyone has their own timing, their own lessons, their own journey. Understanding doesn't make it easier to witness. Success in the conventional sense becomes less appealing. You see what successful people sacrifice to get there. You recognize that most achievement is driven by wounds, by trying to prove something or fill an emptiness. The chosen ones often step off the ladder everyone else is climbing. This looks like failure to observers. It feels like freedom to you, but freedom doesn't pay the bills or impress your parents or satisfy society's expectations. Your health might suffer under the weight of seeing. The body stores what the mind can't process. Tension, exhaustion, mysterious pains that doctors can't diagnose. You're carrying knowledge that humans aren't designed to carry alone. Ancient cultures had communities to share this burden. You're processing it solo in a world that doesn't believe in what you're experiencing. The isolation compounds the strain, yet despite the price, you wouldn't go back. When people ask if you wish you could return to innocence, the answer is no. Awareness hurts, but unconsciousness was a different kind of suffering. You were asleep then, numb, half alive. The pain you feel now is the pain of being fully awake and fully human. It's authentic suffering, rather than the dull ache of a life unlived. Given the choice between comfortable lies and uncomfortable truth, you'll choose truth every time. The price of seeing beyond is paid in comfort, in belonging, in the ease of fitting in. What you receive in return is something most people never find: reality, depth, meaning, a life that's yours instead of borrowed. The chosen ones understand this trade. They signed up for it the moment they answered the call. The price is high, but what you're purchasing is priceless. Your own soul, retrieved from where you left it, to make others comfortable. 6. Your true purpose revealed. After everything you've walked through, the question arrives with unavoidable clarity. Why you? Why were you chosen for this journey while others sleep peacefully in their illusions? The answer isn't what most people expect. Your purpose isn't some grand external mission. It's not about saving the world or becoming famous or achieving something spectacular. It's far more intimate and challenging than that. Your purpose is to become yourself, completely, entirely, without compromise or apology. Jung called this individuation the process of integrating all aspects of your psyche into a coherent whole. Most people die without ever starting this process. They live as fragments, collections of other people's expectations, wounded reactions, and social conditioning. You've been called to something different, to gather all those scattered pieces and form them into a genuine self. This sounds simple until you attempt it. Becoming yourself means disappointing people who need you to stay small. It means pursuing things that make no sense to anyone else. It means honoring truths you can't prove or defend. It means choosing authenticity over approval again and again, in 1,000 small moments. Each choice is an act of courage. Each decision to honor your inner truth instead of outer pressure is a battle won. Your specific purpose unfolds through your particular gifts and wounds. What you've suffered taught you something that others need to learn. Your struggles gave you insight into certain aspects of human experience. Your sensitivity, the thing you might have cursed, is actually your antenna. It picks up signals others miss. Your pain cracked you open so light could enter. Now you carry that light, whether you realize it or not. The purpose isn't separate from your ordinary life. It's woven through it. It's in how you show up in conversations, bringing presence instead of performance. It's in the work you do, whatever that work is, when you do it consciously instead of mechanically. It's in the way you relate to people, seeing their depth instead of their surface. You don't need a special role or title. You need to be awake in the role you have. Some chosen ones become teachers, but not in conventional ways. They teach through how they live, through the questions they ask, through their refusal to accept comfortable lies. They disturb the sleep of others simply by being awake themselves. This isn't about preaching or converting. It's about embodying a different possibility. When people encounter you, something in them remembers what they've forgotten. You're a reminder of what's possible. Others find their purpose in creation, the art they make, the businesses they build, the solutions they invent. These creations carry the energy of consciousness. They have a quality that can't be faked or replicated. People sense something different about them, something alive. This is because they came through someone who was accessing their depths rather than imitating others. Original creation always comes from individuation. Your purpose includes breaking patterns, family patterns that have run for generations, cultural patterns that keep people trapped. Unconscious patterns that damage relationship after relationship. You're the one who stops passing them forward. This is invisible work. Nobody gives you credit for cycles you interrupt. But this might be your most important contribution. Every pattern you break liberates not just you, but everyone who comes after you. The revelation of purpose often comes quietly. Not in a dramatic flash, but in a growing certainty. You start trusting yourself. You stop questioning whether you're on the right path because you feel the rightness in your bones. You notice that synchronicities increase, doors open, people appear, resources arrive. Not because life suddenly got easy, but because you're aligned with something deeper than your ego's wants. Purpose doesn't mean your problems disappear. The chosen ones still struggle, still doubt, still face challenges. The difference is meaning. When you're living your purpose, even difficulties have significance. You're not suffering randomly. You're being shaped, tested, refined. Each challenge is revealing something, teaching something, preparing you for what's next. This perspective transforms everything. You might resist your purpose at first. It asks too much. It requires too much change. It threatens too much of what you built before you knew better. Resistance is natural, but something in you won't let you turn away. You're pulled forward even when you're afraid. This pull is stronger than your fear because it's not just desire, it's necessity. Your soul is demanding its life. The true purpose includes serving something beyond yourself, not in a martyred way, but as a natural extension of who you've become. When you're whole, you overflow. You can't help but affect others positively. Your presence raises the energy of rooms. Your clarity helps others find theirs. Your courage gives others permission to be brave. This isn't work you have to force. It happens automatically when you're being your authentic self. Eventually you realize the purpose was never hidden. It was always obvious. You are here to wake up and help others wake up, in whatever form that takes in your unique life. To live consciously in an unconscious world. To choose truth when lies are easier. To become real when everyone else is performing. This is the purpose of every chosen one, expressed through billions of different lives, personalities, and circumstances. The video found you because you needed this confirmation. You're not crazy. You're not alone. The path you're walking has been walked before by others who heard the call. Jung walked it. Countless others throughout history walked it. Now it's your turn. Your purpose is revealed not through these words, but through your own journey. Keep walking, keep becoming. Keep honoring what's true for you. That's all you've ever been asked to do. That's everything.